Didn't I tell you guys, didn't I promise you guys that we'd have these two cars back on this channel? Well, here's me keeping my promise, because this is part 2 of our mega comparison test between the new XUV700 and the Tata Safari. We started off with the Desi Superstars theme, and it sort of continues because these two cars are the big deal. Now, both of these are diesel, and this is going to be predominantly more about a diesel versus diesel test, because we didn't do a direct comparison test between the two engines because the XUV was a petrol and of course Safari was a diesel, because you can't get one in petrol. So this one is a lot more, well, apples to apples. But before we actually get into that, there's something about Safari that I have realized just recently that I think we need to talk about in a little bit more detail. For that, I need to get inside the car, not sit here as if I'm having a bit of a picnic. Okay, so the Safari in its top spec variations, or actually no, it's got many top spec variations. You've got the standard car, then you've got this, which is the adventure persona, you've got the black edition, you've got the gold edition in like the white gold and the black gold. So you've got essentially 5 different top of the line cars to choose from. And what Tata has done, and I don't know how they managed to pull this off, because it's not that they've got economies of scale on their side with each variant, but they've given 5 different interior options, or 5 different interior color options with each of those 5 different variants. So if you want to buy a top of the line XUV700, for instance, you get a standard sort of beige-ish, ivory-ish interior, and that's all you really get. If you want to buy a top of the line Tata Safari, you can choose between 5 different versions and get 5 completely different interiors. And as a choice to customers, that is incredible. That's not something you see generally in the auto industry in like a mass market scenario. Sure, Porsche can give you a paint to sample exterior and Bentley can give you whatever color leather you want on the inside, but a mass market brand at a 25 lakh-ish rupee range doing 5 different interior options on a mass market SUV, that is something that we should tip our hats to for Tata. And unlike the XUV, on those top of the line versions, you now get ventilated seats, not only in the front but also in the rear. And if I was buying a car, especially in a place like Delhi or Rajasthan, for example, which gets really hot, or somewhere in central India which gets really hot, and I was being chauffeured around, I'd just buy this because it has mid-row ventilated seats. And what else in this category, or even 3 times more expensive, gets that? Nothing short of maybe a BMW 7 Series or an Audi A8. I can't think of something cheaper than that that gets ventilated seats in the rear. And again, that's something that Tata is giving mass market, and that's something that should be appreciated. Right, and now that I've done my monologue for the day, I think since we're in the Safari, it's time to take this out on a bit of a quick drive and to see how it compares versus the XUV700, which of course we know drives really well. What do you think? What do you think is going to come out on top? Stay tuned. You know, everybody on the internet who says that the Tata Safari is not an SUV has absolutely no clue as to what they're talking about. Sure, it's front wheel drive, but you don't need all wheel drive in an SUV. It's more of a body style thing, and it's more of bulk and girth. And you know what? The only thing I can describe the Safari with is maybe a nautical reference. You know what this feels like? With all this metal in front of me, it feels like I'm piloting a big, massive aircraft carrier. It actually feels that huge. There is incredible presence that this thing has on the road, and that's just It's just something that it does. It's just something that it has over even the XUV700. But let's talk about the engine, because that's the point of this video, and that's what we really are making this video for. The diesel versus the diesel. Now, this is of course the 2-liter Fiat sourced multi-jet engine, which makes 170 horsepower and makes 350 Newton meters of torque. And we've of course driven this engine across various platforms in the past and in the current present. And we all know how responsive and how, well, how would I put it? How responsive, how up to date, how modern, and how much fun this engine actually can be. Handles bumps well too. 350 Newton meters of torque is a lot of power, and diesel torque is what sometimes we tend to miss when we drive all these new turbo petrol smaller engine cars. But when you do need to get a moving on, all those torques come in a nice big surge, typical of a big diesel engine. Another speed breaker. God, there are speed breakers everywhere. No wonder people are buying these big SUVs all the time to get over these bumps that are literally everywhere. I mean, look, there's another one that's literally right there, about 200 meters from where the last one was. Nonetheless, before I start going into a rant, as I was saying, there is so much torque that this engine has. There's so much absolute driving ease that this engine brings to the table. And if you are buying a Safari, I strongly suggest that you skip that manual gearbox and you go straight to this 6-speed automatic, because this is a really well sorted 6-speed automatic. And with a car this big, honestly, as I've always said in so many videos now on this channel, do you really need a manual? Come on, who are you kidding? This isn't like an enthusiast car where you need to prove anything to your friends. Get the automatic, save yourself the trouble. Ease of driving is better, the way it puts down its power is better. But is the XUV that step up? Because of course the XUV does have a slightly bigger engine. But you know what the great thing about Mahindra is? They will sacrifice that 1 or 2 kilometers per liter to give you an engine that drives just so much nicer than almost anything else. Now this of course is the 2.2 CRD, and it makes 185 horsepower and 450 Newton meters of torque. 450. You know what I call that? I call that yummy levels of torque, because when you put your foot down, you know what this does? It does the same thing to my brain that a big bar of chocolate does. As Rohan likes to call it all the time, the endorphins have been released, ladies and gentlemen. I have a big smile on my face and I am a happy Cyrus. This is what the car makes me feel happy. It is a great car to drive. It definitely drives better than the Safari. It doesn't feel as cumbersome as the Safari either. It feels light on its feet, it is faster, it's nimbler. And even though it is almost as big, it doesn't feel big. It feels sort of shrunken around you. Does it have the same road presence the Safari does? No, absolutely not. The Safari will always have a speed breaker. God, the Safari will always have that better road presence, because it is, at least by the look of it, a bulkier, bigger car. In fact, I would say speed breaker. God, you know what? This should be a drinking game. Every time I go over a speed breaker, you guys take a drink. Nonetheless, as I was saying, the Safari will always be a big, bulky car. In fact, short of a Fortuner, it is the biggest, baddest, brawniest, affordable SUV out there. But this feels chic. It feels modern. It feels tight around you. Feels like it's been engineered really well too. So, driving dynamics to driving dynamics, I think it's a no-brainer. Better road presence, better road manners. So how should we sum this up then? We think it's a straight set win for the XUV700, unless of course your main need for an SUV is to bully other road users, in which case the Safari is the better option. The XUV clearly has the advantage over the Safari in terms of tech and interior quality, and now we know that the diesel is superior to drive too. Yes, the verdict is pretty much simple. The XUV is the better, bigger, more hit-inducing Desi superstar. No wonder it has a waiting list that stretches into mid-2023 or has dealers asking for absolutely absurd cash premiums for it. So, if you want one, you better be lucky, rich, or very, very patient.